Golden Open Acrylics, slow drying acrylics. Let's check them out. Hi, Shannon Rowe Jackson here from Caution Art Set Play, and today I am going to be reviewing the Golden Open Acrylics. And as you can see here, I have the landscape set. I've actually had this set for a while, but I haven't opened it yet. I've had it since last spring, and I've gotten paint on it, but I haven't actually opened the set yet. But I also have a few other colors that didn't come in the set. I wanted an extra large thing of white. I originally had ordered these so that I could do my sky series with them, because I was thinking maybe the slow drying acrylics, which I've been wanting to try for a long time, would help me create really nice gradients in the sky because I'd have longer time to mix. This one got damaged, so I put some pretty duct tape over it. There was like a little puncture hole because it got kind of squished in my drawer. So I have tried them a little bit for my Sky series, but I didn't use them nearly as much as I had planned because with so much work that I had to put into that series, I decided it probably wasn't the best time to try a new kind of medium, and this is a little bit, or it's supposed to be a little bit different than regular acrylics, and I had to work really fast anyway, so I did use them a little bit, but not nearly as much and not on their own. So this is going to be a full piece of me using them on their own. So let's take a look at this set. The landscape set, which of course I had ordered because obviously I was working mainly in landscapes when I was focusing on my Sky series. The 30 ml open thinner also comes with it. So this is supposed to, I guess it's a medium that's supposed to make it so that they're even more slow drying, I guess. Yeah, technical terms there. So these are all 22 mLs, and then we have the larger white paint. And of course, I have a gigantic white paint because I was anticipating a lot of clouds with these. So let's take a look at the colors themselves. It shows right on the side of the packaging here. It's really pretty good packaging. I mean, it is cardboard, but most of the time you're not going to keep your paints in there anyway. And let's just take a peek at what we get. Get my handy dandy pen here, which doesn't color anymore, but it works perfectly for opening packages. So this set has cadmium yellow primrose, yellow ochre, cadmium red light, alizarin crimson hue, ultramarine blue, manganese blue hue, and sap green hue. And then, of course, titanium white. They're nice metal tubes, obviously with a screw on top. It gives us our pigments right here. I hope that's focusing for you to see. Shows us our pigments right here. There's a test swatch right on the top that shows you the opacity, which is great. So you can see some of them are more transparent than others. Some of them are more opaque. Like this one has a little bit more coverage than this one because you can see the little black lines through this a lot more. So it's kind of cool. They already do some test swatches for us. But of course, the information is going to be on the back as well. It does conform to the ASTM standard, which means like, it's going to warn us if it's going to kill us. Pretty much is essentially what that means. The poison and, things like that. It'll give us any type of warnings we need to have. And it tells us the ingredients, 100% acrylic polymer. Yeah. And then I thought that it gave us the light fast ratings on the side here. Why am I not seeing that? I could have sworn, I know my other ones. Weird, it doesn't seem to be on the smaller tubes. It doesn't seem to tell me the light fast information on the smaller tubes, which is kind of disappointing. Series 2. On the larger tube, it says it right here. I didn't realize they didn't put the light fast ratings on the smaller tubes. That's very odd because I have some more tubes this size by Golden in their regular acrylics, and it has the light fast ratings on them. So I don't know why the smaller tubes do not. I did look up the light fast ratings for each of the ones that were in the set before I got the set, or else I wouldn't have gotten the set. And the light fast ratings were good on all of them, but I don't know why it wouldn't say on here, unless I'm completely dense right now. and I'm just missing it, but I have even paused it and read it. Very strange. I don't understand that. Let's see what the booklet says. See if this has any information about this set specifically. So it lists their colors, and I'm assuming it lists the whole line, but it doesn't seem to have the Lightfast ratings in here either, which is kind of odd for Golden. But I did look them up. I'll look them up again just to verify while I'm, before I work on the actual piece. But I'm fairly certain they're all Lightfast. I'm pretty disappointed that their smaller tubes don't say if they're Lightfast. I don't know why they wouldn't do that. It wouldn't take up much space to just put like below the series what the Lightfastness is. It's the same paint. Don't know why they wouldn't just put it on the tube. I have it on all my big tubes, so yeah. Well, that's interesting. Anyways, I need to get off that subject because it's taking up too much of this video. So these are the colors we have. I will be working on a landscape. I do want to do some test swatches so that I can test them, and I kind of want to test how long it takes them to dry too. So I'm going to test them against the other Golden paints that I have, as well as some of my medium-bodied paints that I usually paint with, the Liquitex Basics and the De La Rowney System 3. And just kind of see how much longer it takes these ones to dry. And then I'll come back and I will let you know how long, and then we'll work on a piece and see how these really work. Okay, so I have swatched out the De La Rowney System 3 acrylics, the Liquitex Basics, the Golden High Flow acrylics, the Golden Artists acrylics, which is like their heavy body, and the Golden Open with the medium, and then I ended up re-swatching the System 3 because this is the one that I use the most, and when I swatched it the first time, I didn't give it nearly as much as I did the rest of them, and I distinctly remember it drying like slower than 7 minutes, especially since the Golden Artists usually dries really fast, and that was only 7 minutes as well, but I know for a fact that the Artists dries a lot faster on the palette than my System 3. But none of that really matters. It's just kind of an idea of the other acrylics I use. As you can tell, there's some different finishes. These kind of dry a little bit matte. The Golden High Flow and especially the Artists, those dry really, really shiny. This is more like an ink consistency, so it settled into the paper more, but I did give it as much as the others. And the Basics, those were 11 minutes. Those were awesome, highly pigmented. Came out great. Not surprised at all that those dried slower than the Golden Artists either. So far, the Artists are the ones that have dried the fastest. Basics and the High Flow are very similar. Now, let's look at the Golden Open. It has now been about a full hour, and it's still not dry. That is pretty amazing for an acrylic. And with the medium, it kind of feels the same way, but I won't know until they actually fully dry, and I don't know if I'm going to really wait that long, so I might have to come back and check tomorrow. So here's kind of a full range. These ones, the Artists and these two tend to be thicker. These two, the System 3 and Basics, are medium body. And then this one is kind of a light acrylic because it's more of an ink. So it's kind of a range between soft body, medium body, and the thicker acrylics, which tend to dry faster, in my opinion, to begin with anyway. So I will come back tomorrow and see if these have dried at all, and then after that I'm going to do a piece with them. Okay, so it is the next morning, and this mixture here, this is where I mixed it with the medium and it's thicker. This is still wet. So the medium definitely keeps it wet longer. I mean, this is overnight. And then even over here in my swatch where the medium is, it's still lifting. It's not like wet, like not really mixable, but it's still lifting. And yeah, it's been overnight. It by itself is still kind of tacky, but it's not really lifting and not mixable. But we know that that stayed wet for at least over an hour, maybe even a little bit more, because even after I had recorded that segment, it was still wet. And as you can see, it kind of dries glossy. So if you're somebody who's not huge on glossy, you may either want to not use these paints or maybe just get a matte varnish to put over it after. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. I don't know if I'll be using that medium very much while I actually paint. I might a little bit just to try it out, but yeah. So I am going to get ready to work on my project, and I will be back probably with a time lapse and a voiceover for that. Just gonna throw it out there though. Y'all must know that I love you if I'm willing to watch paint dry so you don't have to, because this is probably the most boring swatches I've ever had to do, other than the fact that I had to really be vigilant to make sure that I got it and I could really figure out like exactly when it dried. Yeah. Okay, so starting with my voiceover and my project now. I didn't have any black paint in that set or in any of the other colors that I had, so I did the background mixing anthraquinacridone blue, alizarin crimson hue, and sap green, and that made a really beautiful rich black, and that ended up working really well. I did need a few layers because these colors tend to be transparent. Even the ones that said that they are opaque tend to be a bit more on the transparent side, and they're very glossy, which is nice for layering, and it can kind of create some nice depth in your pieces. So I did like that quality about them most of the time. The only problem that I had when it came to transparency was the white. And I'm not sure if it was that the white wasn't opaque enough in and of itself, or if it's because some of the paint can actually be reconstituted for a time. So even if it's touch dry, if it hasn't set long enough, you can actually lift these paints a little bit and they will actually re-wet if you put wet paint or water over them. So that's something to be careful of when you are trying to layer. So on top of drying, it even says in their pamphlet that they can be reconstituted for a short amount of time, similar to a gouache, which I didn't realize while I was working, and that caused me some extra frustration. So I'm not sure if the white itself wasn't opaque enough or if it was just that I was lifting some of the layers from below, but that got frustrating when I was trying to create grass and things like that. I would put the white on and it would look white, and then it would dry and it would gray out. So I don't know if it was just lifting some of the pigment. I don't know. That was kind of frustrating. But that is something to keep in mind. They stay wet for a long period of time, as you saw with my swatches, but they also can be reconstituted a little bit, which is different because we know that acrylic normally doesn't reconstitute, but also drying times aside, like if I'm working with oil, once the layer is dry, it stays dry. So that kind of differs from both acrylics and oils. And these are kind of meant to be a happy medium in between acrylic and oils, but that kind of quality is more of a gouache watercolor kind of quality. So keep that in mind when you are working. That can be a little bit frustrating. I had some color lift and I had to redo a few spots, especially on the deer, multiple times because I would come back, it would be dry, I'd go to layer over it, and then it would lift. That being said, when it is actually dry, there are some beautiful glazing qualities about this where you can water the paint down a little bit and just glaze it over it and make a transparent layer on the top. And their medium, their slow drying medium works well for that as well. It slows down the drying time even more, and it makes some really pretty transparent glazes. I didn't use that a whole lot because I already felt like these dried slow enough for me because I'm used to fast drying acrylics. So here you can see like I did the body, and I had initially tried to put down some masking fluid over the spots. It didn't end up working out as well as I would like. I mean, it did work, but then I had to redo that area so many times that I ended up just deciding to come in and paint the spots over it. Later on, I do end up switching to the Golden Artist White because it seems to be a little bit more opaque than the Golden Open White to put the spots on there. So I did end up switching the white, but for the rest of the painting, I use 100% of the Golden Open acrylics. So let's talk about some of their claims to fame. They remain wet longer on the palette, and this is very true. I estimate at least around 3 hours before it starts getting a skinning, like, quality over the top of it. at least 3 hours. So that's because I was working on this. At times I would work on this for about 3 hours at a time, and I didn't really notice it drying on my palette at all. But I did notice it took about 3 hours for the painting itself to dry. And that is in the current climate that I'm in. My air right now, where I'm at, it's fall time, so the air is a little bit drier. There's less humidity in the air. In a place that's hot and humid, it would probably take even longer than 3 hours to dry. So if you're somebody who likes mixing for a long period of time, this is definitely the paint for you. One of their other claims is excellent blending characteristics, and that's true because it stays wet longer. Obviously, you're going to have more time to blend. I had to mix a lot of my colors. I didn't have a brown in that landscape set, and I didn't have a black, as I had mentioned before, so I had to mix all my browns, grays, and blacks from the colors I had. And I did end up using all the colors, well, not all the colors I have, but I used the set plus the extra colors that I had. I didn't just use the one set. I gave myself all the advantages I could as far as color mixing goes, and I was able to mix colors very easily. The only thing is you want to mix a lot at a time, because even though these are slow drying, if you're obviously the thinner the mixture, the faster it will dry. So it's no different than regular acrylics in that way. So less wasted paint due to drying and palette loss. That is very true. I'm reading the pamphlet if you can't tell. And available in 81 colors, which I didn't have the 81 colors. So as far as my set goes, I mentioned in the beginning that it does not have the light fast ratings on these smaller tubes themselves. I am not sure why they do that. They've obviously done their light fast testing. You can find a full list of the 81 colors of this line on their website, and it will tell you the light fast ratings on them. That's how I found out the light fast ratings on the ones in the set before I went ahead and got the set. And so I just wrote the light fast ratings on each tube, but I did find that kind of frustrating to think that, you know, they couldn't just put it on the tube. I don't know why. They have it on their larger tubes, and I feel like they could put it in their pamphlet and on the smaller tubes if they have it on their website. So if you do want to buy these and you want to go according to the light fast ratings, you can check on their website. So the pros that I found with working to them is that they're very pigmented and they almost dry to look like oils. There's very minimal color shifting, but there was a bit of color shifting with the white. As I said, it would gray out a little bit. And some of the other colors would kind of dry a little bit darker at times, and that could be frustrating, but that's not unusual in acrylics. So that's one quality that they didn't get, that, you know, from oils. Like, oil paint usually dries the same color as it is on the palette. Acrylics tend to have a bit of color shift, so that's not unusual. And it really wasn't that bad of a color shift. And yeah, they're a beautiful paint, highly pigmented, definitely high quality. A little doesn't go a long way. Even though they're highly pigmented, it doesn't spread out as far because it tends to be a little bit thicker. And so I had to reload my brush a lot more than what I'm interested in. And it is easy to keep your brush strokes with these. So if you're somebody who likes to do impasto techniques, or you like the look of your brush strokes being visible, then this is a great paint for that as well. So some of the cons were they kind of felt a little bit sticky in consistency, a little bit stickier than regular acrylics. And I thought that was just kind of odd, but it's not detrimental to the working process. Other than that, they still feel very much like regular acrylics. And I kind of found the lifting and the reactivating to be a bit of a con, because one of the things that I love about acrylics is that usually it stays put. I like to be able to paint over it when it's dry. So I found that to be a bit of a con. And then a couple of the in-between things are that it's glossy. So if you're someone who doesn't like glossy paint, as I mentioned in the beginning, you may not be a huge fan of it, but you can buy some matte varnishes to try and kind of undo that. And then other people might look as the reactivation as an in-between thing. So the bottom line is, if you are somebody who is new to acrylics and you're a little bit slower at it, you may want these paints. Or if you are trying to transition either from oil to acrylics or acrylics to oils, so if you're, and you need that added like drying time. So if you're somebody who's used to working with oils which are slow drying, but you want to transfer over to acrylics, this might be a good option for you to try out, just till you get used to the working properties of acrylics. And then, and vice versa, it might be a good way to kind of transition from acrylics to oils if you're used to working really fast, but you're trying to learn how to slow down and use some patience. But as for me, I'm not sure I will be reaching for these very often. I had a lot of frustration with them because I'm somebody who really enjoys the quick qualities of acrylics to begin with, but they are a beautiful paint and they are definitely high quality. So for what it's worth, I mean, I'm very happy with the way this piece came out. I just didn't really enjoy myself while creating it because of the lifting and because of the frustration with the white. Alright, so that's all I have for this today. If you have any more questions about this paint, feel free to comment below. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye! Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please hit subscribe. Also, if you're interested in seeing more of my artwork, I'm on social media, so check out the links in the description below.